Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished his patrol around the mining station. The job was boring most days, but it paid well. He walked the same routes, checked the same doors, and watched the same empty hallways. Nothing ever happened on mining station Kappa 7. Today felt different, though. His radio crackled with strange signals from the outer sensors. Something had crashed about 2 miles from the station. Marcus grabbed his emergency kit and headed out in the patrol rover. The crash site was worse than he expected. A sleek ship lay broken against the rocky ground. It looked expensive, nothing like the rough mining ships he was used to seeing. The metal was smooth and had a strange blue shine to it. Marcus climbed through the twisted wreckage. Inside, he found her. The alien was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin had scales that changed color, like oil on water. Strange markings on her face glowed with soft blue light. She was bleeding from a deep cut on her arm. She opened her eyes when Marcus knelt beside her. They were large and golden, filled with pain and fear. She tried to speak, but the words sounded like music mixed with clicking sounds. Marcus did not understand, but her meaning was clear. She needed help. Marcus carried her back to the station. She was lighter than he expected, but her breathing was shallow. He took her to the medical bay and started treating her wounds with the basic supplies they had. The bleeding stopped when he used human bandages, which surprised him. The alien watched everything he did. She seemed amazed that a human would help her. Marcus gave her water and some simple food. She ate carefully, as if testing whether it was safe. 3 hours later, the station's alarms started screaming. Marcus ran to the control room and saw the worst thing possible on his screens. 5 ships were approaching fast. He recognized the design immediately. Korthak. Raiders. Everyone knew about the Korthak. They were pirates who captured people and sold them as slaves. They were strong, cruel, and completely without mercy. Marcus had hoped he would never see them. The other station workers panicked. They ran to the escape pods and launched them toward space. Within minutes, Marcus was alone on the station with the wounded alien. He could have run too, but something stopped him. The alien could not escape by herself. She was too weak to move. Marcus made a choice that would change his life forever. He would stay and fight. He knew the station better than anyone. Marcus had worked there for 3 years and knew every pipe, every room, and every maintenance tunnel. If he was smart, he might be able to protect them both. The Korthak ships docked with the station. Marcus watched 12 raiders enter through the main airlock. They were huge creatures, with thick armor and energy weapons. They moved through the station like they owned it. Marcus had been a soldier before becoming a security guard. He remembered his training. The first rule was to know your enemy. The second rule was to use what you had. He moved the alien to a hidden room deep in the station's core. Then, he started his war. Marcus cut the power to most of the station, leaving only emergency lights. The Korthak stumbled around in the darkness, while he moved through maintenance tunnels they did not even know existed. He used mining explosives to block their paths and create confusion. The first raider died when Marcus dropped a cargo container on him from above. The second fell into a pit Marcus had covered with thin metal plates. The Korthak started to realize they were not dealing with helpless miners. Marcus used every trick he could think of. He released gas from the mining equipment to make them cough and stumble. He played loud sounds through the station's speakers to confuse them. He even used the artificial gravity system to make some areas lighter or heavier than expected. The Korthak were strong and well-armed, but they were not prepared for this kind of fighting. They expected to walk in and take what they wanted. Instead, they found themselves fighting a ghost who struck from shadows and disappeared before they could fight back. Hours passed. Marcus was tired, but he kept fighting. The alien watched him work when he came to check on her. She seemed to understand that he was risking his life to protect her. Her golden eyes followed his every movement, with growing respect. By dawn, only 3 Korthak were still alive. They had given up trying to search the station and were just trying to survive until their ships could pick them up. Marcus had won, but he was exhausted. Then new ships appeared on the sensors. These were different. They moved with grace and power that made even the Korthak ships look clumsy. The new ships surrounded the raider vessels and destroyed them in seconds. Marcus helped the alien to an observation window. When she saw the new ships, her face lit up with joy. She spoke rapidly in her musical language and pointed at the ships. Marcus understood. These were her people, and they had come to rescue her. The alien looked at Marcus one more time before her rescuers arrived. She placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. The glowing marks on her face pulsed brighter for a moment. Then she spoke a single word that somehow Marcus understood perfectly. Guardian. Marcus had no idea that the woman he saved was a princess, or that his actions would be studied and remembered across the galaxy. He only knew that he had done what felt right. Sometimes, that was enough to change everything. 3 months had passed since the incident at the mining station. Marcus thought his life had returned to normal. He had a new job at a different station and tried not to think about the strange alien woman he had saved. The company had given him a bonus for defending company property, but they never asked for details. Everything changed when the ships arrived at his new station. They were beautiful vessels that looked more like art than machines. 3 of them hung in space near the station, gleaming with that same blue shine Marcus remembered from the crashed ship. The station manager was panicking because no one had expected alien visitors. A voice came over the radio in perfect English. "We request permission to speak with Security Officer Marcus Chen. We come in peace and with great respect." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Somehow, they had found him. The meeting took place in the station's main conference room. 2 aliens entered, wearing long robes that seemed to be made of liquid light. They were the same species as the woman Marcus had saved, but taller and more formal. Their face markings glowed with steady white light instead of the blue he remembered. "Marcus Chen," the first alien said with a slight bow. "I am Ambassador Veltar. We have traveled far to meet you. 3 months ago, you saved someone very important to us." Marcus shifted in his chair. "I just did what anyone would do. She was hurt and needed help." The second alien made a sound like musical laughter. "That is not true, Marcus Chen. We have studied the recordings from your mining station. Your people do not typically fight 12 Korthak raiders alone. Most species would have fled immediately." Ambassador Veltar activated a holographic display. It showed the battle at the mining station from different angles. Marcus watched himself moving through the tunnels and setting traps. It looked more impressive when viewed from outside. "The person you saved," Veltar continued, "was Princess Zarathiel, heir to the throne of the Velthari Empire. Our empire spans 847 star systems. The princess's life is beyond value." Marcus felt dizzy. A princess. He had saved an alien princess and had no idea. "Our military experts studied your tactics," the ambassador went on. "They concluded that what you did was impossible. 12 Korthak raiders should have killed you in the first few minutes. Instead, you defeated them using methods our warriors have never seen." The hologram showed analysis of Marcus's fighting style. Words like unconventional, adaptive, and psychologically devastating floated around the images. "We would like to invite you to our homeworld," Veltar said. "Queen Nalthis herself wishes to honor you for saving her daughter's life." Marcus wanted to refuse, but something in the ambassador's tone made him realize this was not really a request. A week later, he found himself on a Velthari ship heading toward their capital world. The journey took 5 days. Marcus spent the time learning about Velthari culture from a young officer named Keth Moore. The aliens had strict rules about honor and duty. When someone saved your life, you owed them a debt that could never be fully repaid. This is why the Queen wants to meet you, Kethmore explained. Princess Zarathiel owes you her life. In our culture, this means you have power over her until the debt is resolved. But you are human, so our laws do not know how to handle this situation. The Velthari homeworld was beautiful beyond imagination. Cities floated in the sky, connected by bridges of light. The buildings grew like crystal trees reaching toward the clouds. Marcus had never seen anything so magnificent. The palace was the most amazing structure on the planet. It stood at the center of the capital city, a tower that seemed to be carved from a single, massive gem. Princess Zarathiel met Marcus at the entrance. She looked different now. Instead of the wounded refugee he remembered, she wore royal robes and carried herself with obvious dignity. But when she saw Marcus, her golden eyes filled with the same warmth he remembered. "Marcus," she said in careful English, "I have learned your language to thank you properly. You gave me my life when you had no reason to help. I will never forget this." The throne room was vast and filled with alien nobles. Queen Nalthis sat on a throne made of what looked like frozen starlight. She was taller than her daughter and radiated power that Marcus could feel from across the room. "Approach, Marcus Chen of Earth," the Queen commanded. Marcus walked forward, trying not to show how nervous he felt. The Queen studied him with eyes that seemed to look through him and see everything he had ever done. "You interest me, human," she said finally. "My daughter tells me you risked your life for a stranger. Our military advisors say what you did was tactically impossible. Yet here you stand, and my daughter lives. How do you explain this?" I want to, the generated. Marcus thought carefully before answering. "Your Majesty, I don't think I did anything special. I just couldn't leave someone helpless when I could help. That's what humans do." The Queen leaned forward. "Most of us try to." "Yes, ma'am." Queen Nalthis was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke to her advisors in their own language. Marcus could tell they were debating something important, but he could not understand the words. "Marcus Chen," the Queen said at last, "I offer you great wealth, a title of nobility, and a place of honor in our empire." Marcus surprised everyone with his answer. "Thank you, Your Majesty, but I just want to go home. I'm not a hero or a warrior. I'm just a security guard who did his job." The silence in the throne room was complete. Princess Zarathiel stared at him in amazement. Even the Queen seemed taken aback. "You refuse royal honors?" the Queen asked. "I don't refuse them, Your Majesty. I just don't need them. Knowing the princess is safe, and your people are grateful, is enough for me." Queen Nalthis smiled for the first time since Marcus had met her. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered something very valuable. "Fascinating," she said softly. "Absolutely fascinating." Marcus returned to Earth. But his quiet life was over. Word of his actions had reached human governments. And suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to him. Military officials, diplomats, and scientists all asked the same questions. How had he defeated 12 alien raiders? What did he know about Velthari technology? Could he teach others to fight the way he had fought? 6 months after returning home, Marcus received another message from the Velthari. This time, it was not an invitation. It was a job offer. The Velthari Empire wishes to establish a military exchange program with Earth, the message explained. Queen Nalthis has specifically requested Marcus Chen to lead training exercises for selected Velthari warriors. The goal is to study human combat methods and adapt them for imperial use. Arcation Renalthis, the round personess. Marcus almost refused, but the human military convinced him to accept. They wanted to learn about alien technology, and this was their best chance. A month later, Marcus found himself back on the Velthari homeworld, this time as an official instructor. Princess Zarathiel met him at the spaceport again. She had been appointed as his official liaison, which meant she would work with him every day. Marcus was surprised by how happy this made him. The princess had become someone he respected and trusted. "My mother has been very interested in human military history since your last visit," Zarathiel told him as they traveled to the training facility. "She has read about your wars, your strategies, your famous battles. She finds human warfare educational." The training facility was enormous. It had mock battlefields, simulated cities, and every kind of terrain Marcus could imagine. 50 Velthari warriors waited for him in the main hall. They were all elite soldiers, chosen from the best units in the Empire. Marcus looked at them and realized he had a problem. These aliens were bred for war. They were faster, stronger, and better equipped than any human soldier. Their weapons could cut through steel, and their armor could stop bullets. How could he teach them anything useful? The answer came to him during the first training exercise. Marcus divided the warriors into two groups. One group was told to defend a building using traditional Velthari tactics. The other group was told to attack it the same way. The exercise was over in minutes. The attackers won easily because they knew exactly what the defenders would do. "This is the problem," Marcus explained to the watching crowd. "You fight with honor, but your enemies know your honor. They can predict every move you make." He reset the exercise with new rules. This time, the defenders could use any method to stop the attackers. They could lie, cheat, hide, or run away. The only goal was to keep the attackers out of the building. The second exercise lasted 6 hours. The defenders used tricks the attackers had never seen before. They pretended to surrender, then attacked when the enemies got close. They made fake soldiers out of equipment and put them in obvious places while the real soldiers hid. They even collapsed part of the building to block the entrance. The attackers won eventually, but they lost half their team doing it. "Human warfare is not about honor," Marcus told the assembled warriors. "It is about survival. When humans fight, we use fear, confusion, and surprise as weapons, just like guns or bombs. We make the enemy think about things other than fighting. We make them worry, make them doubt, make them afraid." Princess Zarathiel translated his words for those who did not speak English well. Marcus could see the understanding grow in their eyes. This was not how they had been taught to think about combat. Over the following weeks, Marcus introduced them to human concepts that seemed almost like magic to the Velthari. He taught them about camouflage and how to become invisible by blending with their surroundings. He showed them how to use noise and silence as weapons. He explained psychological warfare and how to break an enemy's will to fight. The most important lesson was about fear itself. Velthari warriors were trained to overcome fear through ritual and mental discipline. Humans fought while afraid and used that fear to make them more dangerous, not less. "A human soldier who is scared will fight harder than a human soldier who feels safe," Marcus explained during one lesson. "Fear makes us think faster, move quicker, and try harder to stay alive. We do not try to remove fear. We learn to use it." Princess Zarathiel was the best student he had. She understood human tactics instinctively and could explain them to other Velthari in ways that made sense. Marcus found himself spending more time talking with her about strategy and less time feeling homesick. "You think differently than we do," she told him one evening as they reviewed the day's exercises. "Velthari minds are logical and ordered. We plan our battles like we plan our ceremonies. But human minds are chaotic and creative. You see solutions we cannot imagine." 3 months into the training program, they received disturbing news. The Korthak had formed an alliance with something called the Hegemony. Intelligence reports said this was a group of military species that considered the Velthari weak and decadent. They were building A massive invasion fleet. Traditional Velthari generals began preparing their standard response. Massive fleet battles, where honor and skill would determine the winner. They had fought this way for thousands of years, and won every time. But Queen Nalthis had different ideas. She called Marcus to a private meeting in her royal chambers. The room was smaller and more comfortable than the throne room, but Marcus could still feel the Queen's power like heat from a fire. "My military advisors tell me the coming war will be fought in the traditional way," she said without ceremony. "Fleet against fleet, warrior against warrior, honor against honor. They believe we will win because we always have." Marcus nodded, unsure where this conversation was going. "I disagree," the Queen continued. "The enemy has been studying our tactics for decades. They know how we fight because we always fight the same way. They are counting on our honor to make us predictable." She activated a holographic display showing star charts and fleet positions. The invasion force was enormous, much larger than anything the Velthari had faced before. "I want you to train a special unit," Queen Nalthis said. "Warriors who will fight like humans, not like Velthari. Can you do this?" Marcus looked at the display and felt the weight of an entire civilization pressing down on him. The Queen was asking him to help save her empire by teaching her people to fight dirty. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said. "I can do that." The Queen smiled that dangerous smile again. "Excellent. You may choose your students from any warriors in the Empire. Princess Zarathiel will assist you. This unit will be kept secret until we need them." As Marcus left the royal chambers, he realized the Queen had been planning this since the day they first met. She had not just wanted to honor him for saving her daughter. She had wanted to study him, to understand what made humans special in war. Now, she was ready to use what she had learned. The war began exactly as the traditional Velthari generals had predicted, and that was the problem. Marcus watched the first battle reports from the Strategic Command Center. The hegemony invasion force had attacked 5 star systems at once, using overwhelming numbers and coordinated strikes. The Velthari fleet responded with their ancient battle formations, meeting the enemy in honorable combat between the stars. It was a disaster. The enemy had studied Velthari tactics for decades. They knew exactly where the Velthari ships would move, and when they would move there. What should have been a glorious battle became a methodical slaughter. 3 Velthari fleets were destroyed in the first day of fighting. "They are fighting us the way we fight each other," Admiral Kesvith reported to Queen Nalthis. His face showed the bewilderment of a master strategist whose lifetime of experience had suddenly become useless. "But they are not following the rules of honorable warfare. They attack damaged ships instead of giving them time to withdraw. They use weapons designed to cause maximum pain rather than clean death." Marcus stood beside Princess Zarathiel in the command center, watching the Empire begin to crumble. The special unit they had trained was ready, but the traditional military leaders refused to use dishonorable tactics, while the Empire still had regular fleets to fight with. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" Queen Nalthis asked. 6 weeks, Your Majesty," the Admiral replied. "Maybe 8, if we sacrifice the outer colonies to slow them down." The Queen looked at Marcus. "What would humans do in this situation?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "Humans would stop fighting the battle the enemy wanted, and start fighting the battle we could win. We would make them afraid to advance and unsure of what we might do next." "Show me," the Queen commanded. That night, Marcus led his special unit on their first real mission. They took a fast ship through hegemony-controlled space to a supply depot the enemy had captured. While the regular Velthari fleet engaged the main enemy forces, Marcus and his team slipped past their defenses. The depot was heavily guarded, but the guards were watching for attacking fleets, not small groups moving through maintenance tunnels. Marcus's team used every dirty trick he had taught them. They sabotaged the fuel supplies, destroyed communication equipment, and planted explosives in the ammunition storage areas. When they were finished, the depot looked normal from outside, But everything inside was rigged to fail at the worst possible moment. The enemy would not discover the sabotage until their ships tried to refuel and rearm. More importantly, Marcus made sure the enemy knew someone had been there. He left human symbols, carved into walls, and scattered Earth military manuals around the facility. When the hegemony forces found these clues, they would know a new enemy was fighting against them. The psychological effect was exactly what Marcus had hoped for. Within a week, hegemony commanders were reporting ghost attacks by unknown forces. Their supply lines became unreliable. Their communication systems failed at critical moments. Their soldiers started looking over their shoulders, wondering who might be watching them. Princess Zarathiel proved to be a natural at this kind of warfare. She led her own team on a mission to capture enemy intelligence and brought back complete battle plans for the next phase of the invasion. The information allowed the Velthari to evacuate their most important colonies before the enemy arrived. But the war was far from over. The hegemony adapted quickly, increasing security and changing their tactics to account for the sabotage attacks. Worse, they began targeting Velthari civilian populations to draw the Empire's forces into unfavorable battles. The crisis came when Princess Zarathiel volunteered to lead a rescue mission to save trapped civilians on the colony world of Kethmar. Marcus wanted to go with her, but Queen Nalthis ordered him to stay and coordinate other operations. The mission seemed routine, just the kind of humanitarian effort the Velthari did well. It was a trap. The distress calls were fake. When Zarathiel's ships arrived at Kethmar, they found a hegemony battle fleet waiting for them. The princess's small rescue force was overwhelmed and captured before they could escape. Marcus learned about the capture from intercepted enemy communications. The hegemony planned to execute Princess Zarathiel in a public broadcast to demoralize the Velthari people. She was being held on the enemy flagship, a massive vessel called the Iron Fist that carried enough firepower to destroy planets. Every traditional military leader said rescue was impossible. The flagship was surrounded by hundreds of escort vessels in the middle of enemy-controlled space. A direct attack would require the entire remaining Velthari fleet and would probably fail anyway. Queen Nalthis called Marcus to her private chambers. For the first time since he had known her, the queen looked truly worried. "Can your methods save my daughter?" she asked without ceremony. Marcus studied the intelligence reports about the enemy flagship. The ship was designed like a fortress, with multiple layers of defense and thousands of soldiers aboard. A direct assault was suicide, just as the generals had said. But Marcus was not thinking about a direct assault. "Yes," he said finally, "but not the way your people would do it. I would need complete authority to act without approval from your military command. What I am planning will violate every rule of Velthari warfare." "You have whatever authority you need," the queen said immediately. "Save my daughter." Marcus spent the next 3 days planning the most audacious rescue in galactic history. He took volunteers from his special unit and some regular Velthari soldiers who were willing to try human tactics. They would not attack the flagship directly. Instead, they would make the enemy bring Princess Zarathiel to them. The plan started with Marcus surrendering himself to the hegemony. He approached their forces in an unarmed shuttle, claiming to be a human diplomat who wanted to negotiate for the princess's release. The enemy was curious enough about humans to bring him aboard the flagship instead of simply destroying his ship. Once inside, Marcus activated the second phase of his plan. Hidden throughout his diplomatic baggage were dozens of tiny explosive devices, each one no bigger than a coin. His team had been infiltrating the flagship's support vessels for days, planting similar devices throughout the enemy fleet. Marcus did not try to fight his way to the princess. Instead, he started a conversation with the hegemony commander, a massive reptilian creature called General Thex Moore. He talked about human military history, about famous battles and heroic last stands. He made himself seem like a valuable source of intelligence about Earth's defenses. While they talked, his planted explosives began going off throughout the fleet. not all at once, but in a carefully timed sequence that created maximum confusion. Ships lost power, communications failed, and weapons systems shut down. The enemy fleet found itself blind and helpless in space. In the chaos, Princess Zarathiel broke free from her cell, using tools Marcus had hidden in his diplomatic gifts. She fought her way to the flagship's shuttle bay, while Marcus kept the enemy command staff busy with his negotiations. The rescue succeeded, but it was also something more. Marcus had not just saved the princess. He had humiliated the hegemony's most powerful fleet and captured their supreme commander. General Thex Moore became a prisoner aboard his own flagship when Zarathiel took control of the ship's systems. More importantly, Marcus had proven that human tactics could work on any scale. The same principles that had saved one alien woman on a mining station could save entire star systems. Queen Nalthis was waiting when they returned. She looked at her daughter, then at Marcus, then at the captured enemy general. "The war is not over," she said quietly, "but now I know how we will win it." The war ended not with a great battle, but with a series of small victories that added up to something unstoppable. Marcus's rescue of Princess Zarathiel had done more than save one person. It had broken the hegemony's confidence and given the Velthari a new way to fight. Within months, human-trained special forces were operating throughout enemy territory, turning the hegemony's own tactics against them. The enemy had expected to fight an honorable war against a predictable opponent. Instead, they found themselves fighting ghosts who struck without warning and vanished before retaliation was possible. Supply lines collapsed, communication networks failed, and hegemony commanders began to fear their own shadows. The final blow came when Marcus led a joint operation that captured the hegemony's central command station. Instead of a glorious last battle, the war ended with enemy leaders surrendering via hologram, while their own security forces held them prisoner. Now, 6 months after victory, Marcus stood in the Velthari throne room once again, but this time felt different. The assembled nobles looked at him with respect instead of curiosity. Princess Zarathiel stood beside her mother's throne, wearing the formal robes of a military commander. Most importantly, Queen Nalthis herself seemed changed, more thoughtful and calculating than before. "Marcus Chen of Earth," the queen began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "You have given our empire more than victory in war. You have given us a new understanding of what it means to be strong." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He still preferred action to speeches, but royal protocol demanded he listen. "Our military academies are being rebuilt around human strategic principles," the queen continued. "Our officers study human history alongside Velthari tradition. Our soldiers learn to think like humans while fighting like Velthari. We have become something new, something more powerful than we were before." The assembled nobles murmured their agreement. Marcus could see the truth in their faces. The war had changed the Velthari Empire fundamentally, and he had been the catalyst for that change. "This brings me to why you are here today," Queen Nalthis said, her golden eyes fixing on Marcus with laser intensity. "I have an offer for you, one that has never been made to any non-Velthari in our history." She stood up from her throne, and every person in the hall fell silent. "I offer you the position of strategic advisor to the crown, with full authority over military planning and imperial security. This is not a temporary assignment, Marcus Chen. I am asking you to bind your life to our empire permanently. In return, you will receive our most advanced life extension technology, making you effectively immortal. You will hold rank equivalent to royalty and command respect throughout our 847 star systems." Marcus felt the weight of 1,000 stares. This was not just a job offer. The queen was asking him to become part of the royal family, to give up his humanity, and become something between human and Velthari. "Why?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying clearly in the silent hall. Queen Nalthis smiled that dangerous smile he had come to know so well. "Because you represent something unique in the galaxy, Marcus Chen," Humans fight with both logic and emotion. You can be terrified and brave at the same time. You refuse to accept defeat even when victory is impossible. These qualities make you incredibly valuable to those wise enough to recognize them. She gestured to Princess Zarathiel, who stepped forward. My daughter has studied human military history and culture extensively since you saved her life, the Queen continued. She has become an expert on human strategic thinking. Together, the two of you represent the perfect fusion of Velthari resources and human innovation. Princess Zarathiel looked at Marcus with an expression that was part respect, part affection, and part something deeper. I support my mother's offer completely, she said. You have already proven that humans and Velthari work well together. Imagine what we could accomplish with centuries to perfect that partnership. Marcus realized this had all been planned from the beginning. The Queen had not just wanted to study human warfare. She had wanted to acquire it permanently, to bind human creativity to Velthari power in a way that would make her empire dominant for generations. It was brilliant, ruthless, and typically long-term Velthari thinking. What about Earth? Marcus asked. What about humanity's independence? Enhanced, not diminished, the Queen replied immediately. Humans will become our preferred allies and partners. Earth will receive advanced technology, protection from hostile species, and access to galactic markets. Your species will benefit greatly from this arrangement. Marcus looked around the throne room at the alien faces watching him. Some showed approval, others, curiosity, but all showed respect. These beings saw him not as a primitive creature from a backwater planet, but as someone whose abilities they genuinely valued. Princess Zarathiel moved closer to him. Marcus, she said quietly, you saved my life once by refusing to abandon someone who needed help. Now I am asking you to save our entire civilization by helping us become something better than we were. Marcus thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. A routine patrol that had become a rescue that had become a war that had become a transformation of galactic politics. None of it had been planned, but all of it had led here. I have conditions, he said finally. Queen Nalthis raised one elegant eyebrow. Name them. I accept your offer, but not as a subordinate. If you want human thinking integrated into your empire, then you need to actually listen to human ideas, even when they conflict with Velthari tradition. I want genuine partnership, not just advisory status. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Marcus could tell she was weighing the political implications of giving real power to an alien. Agreed, she said at last. You will hold the rank of strategic partner to the crown, with full voice in military and security decisions. Second condition, Marcus continued. I want to establish a formal exchange program between Earth and the Velthari Empire. Humans learn your technology and culture while teaching our own approaches to problem solving. Both species benefit equally. Also agreed. Marcus looked at Princess Zarathiel. Third condition. If I am going to be immortal and have centuries to work with, I want to make sure I am working with someone I trust completely. I want Princess Zarathiel as my official partner in this role. The princess's eyes widened in surprise and pleasure. The Queen's smile became genuinely warm for the first time Marcus had ever seen. More than agreed, Queen Nalthis said. I had hoped you would suggest exactly that arrangement. As the formal ceremonies concluded and Marcus officially became the first human to hold real power in galactic politics, he realized that his story had come full circle. He had started by protecting one alien who needed help. Now he was protecting an entire civilization by helping them evolve. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a new training facility watching the first class of human Velthari joint military officers. These students would learn to fight like humans while thinking like Velthari, creating something entirely new in galactic warfare. Princess Zarathiel joined him at the observation window. Their partnership had developed into something deeper over the months. a bond that transcended species and culture. "Do you ever regret your choice?" she asked, watching the students work through complex tactical scenarios. Marcus thought about his old life as a security guard on remote mining stations. He thought about the quiet, predictable existence he had given up to become part of something larger than himself. "No," he said finally. "I just did what felt right. Sometimes that is enough to change everything." Queen Nalthis watched from her palace as reports came in from across the galaxy. Other species were studying the new Velthari tactics and finding them impossible to counter. The Empire was stronger than ever, and at its heart was a human who had saved one alien woman because it was the right thing to do. She had gotten exactly what she wanted: human adaptability bound permanently to Velthari power. And Marcus had gotten what he needed: the chance to protect people on a galactic scale. It was a partnership that would reshape the galaxy for centuries to come.